Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the number 2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here. Today, we're talking about the parallels between an athlete's mindset and being a corporate leader. Being a professional athlete myself, this is something I often think about. There are so many skills and lessons I have learned through athletics that directly translate into the professional world. I know for most, it's difficult to relate to or understand the lifestyle of being an athlete. I don't think authors or speakers that preach about toughness, the grind, or how you have to suffer, I don't think any of that is relatable. And frankly, for me at least, is a little bit of a turnoff and contributes to some toxic behaviors we see both online and in real life in the workplace. So I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm a wife, a cat mom, and an entrepreneur that lives in Nashville, Tennessee, who cleans her own house and cooks her own meals. I just also so happen to have been a competitive bodybuilder for 10 years who ended up turning pro. There are some books that I love to recommend that I think draw these parallels between athletics and business really, really well. I'll link them in the show notes, but my top 2 are first, Elite Minds by Dr. Stan Beecham. Dr. Beecham is a sports psychologist that ended up becoming a leadership consultant after finding there were common traits of how winners think. He talks a lot about finding flow, the power of visualization, and how our mind can be a great asset in performance or hold us back. And the second is Harvard Business Review's 10 must-reads on mental toughness. The entire collection of articles is great, but there's one called The Making of a Corporate Athlete that talks about this very subject, pulling from the habits of athletes to perform better in business. It covers the importance of rituals, recovery, and habits. So if this is a topic you're interested in, those are the most accessible, applicable, and beneficial reads that I have found connecting the world of athletics to business. When I retired from bodybuilding last August, I sat down and journaled on the top 10 lessons I had learned during my journey that I was able to apply to my professional life. And just as some background, I was not naturally good at bodybuilding. I'm 6 feet tall, so it took me a long time to put on the muscle I needed to be competitive. I'm also not very graceful, so my posing did not come naturally. It was something I really had to work at. And I competed as an amateur for 7 years before I finally turned pro, which is longer than most amateurs will stay in the sport. So I just give that background to underscore that my path as an athlete was not an easy one, which influences a number of these lessons learned. So these are my top 10 lessons learned from being an athlete that I have directly applied to my professional life as well. Number 1, be coachable. I always want to be surrounded by those better, faster, stronger, and smarter than me, and just become a sponge. If I received feedback from a coach or someone more successful than me, there was no ego. I found a way to apply that feedback and became better because of it. And the same applies to mentors in your professional life. Number 2, always do your best, but know your best will look different each day. We don't always have 100% to give, but we can give what we can. Even a bad workout was better than no workout. So some days you'll show up and only have 40% left in your tank. But that means if you give 40%, you've given your all. Number 3, longevity is more important than quick success. Slow and sustainable growth is better than taking risky shortcuts. And frankly, in both bodybuilding and in small businesses, this is a matter of life or death. You can take on as much risk as you want, but there are consequences. Number 4, you can prepare for every variable, but something unexpected will still go wrong. You've heard the phrase control the controllables. That still leaves a lot out of your hands. It's important to have a plan, but also be fluid and adaptable to changing circumstances. In competing, I pretty much had everything go wrong over those 10 years. I had my stage tanner explode in my luggage on my way to California. I had suits break on stage, just anything you can imagine. Same goes for business. I've had issues with the bank. I've been through the Great Resignation. There's always going to be a need to be prepared, but flexible. Number 5, visualization works. So I mentioned competing in California. That's about a 4-hour flight from Nashville. Well, I spent the entire 4-hour flight running through my posing routine with my eyes closed. So headphones on, eyes closed, just running through my posing in every single imaginable way. So first person, as if I was someone else in the audience watching me. How hot do the stage lights feel? What is the smell of the tanner? What is it going to feel like when they call my name for first place? By the time I was on stage, it was my 1,000th time doing it. Every single detail was already so familiar that it felt like I was basically just showing up to collect my trophy. And it worked. And that's why I love the book Elite Minds, because it really draws the connection of how you can apply this to business as well. What is it going to feel like when you get that signed proposal back? Or visualize what questions your staff will be asking when you show them a P&L with a 25% bottom line. These are all ways you can visualize success in business the same way an athlete would visualize their win. Number 6, discipline eventually trumps all other forms of motivation. A favorite quote by James Clear is, "Professionals set a schedule and stick to it. Amateurs wait until they feel inspired or motivated." Well, I am rarely motivated to work out, but I am motivated to win, so I stuck to the schedule. I wasn't necessarily motivated to record today, but we stick to a strict batch recording schedule so the weekly content is always there for you guys, and there isn't a last-minute scramble. That discipline is just part of being a professional. Number 7, losing is just a form of feedback. I really, really love winning, but statistically, I will always lose far more often than I win. Those losses were always so much more valuable to me because I received direct feedback on how to improve and come back better. So if you're always winning, those pats on the back don't help you improve. If your company gets a bad NPS or CSAT score from a client, that is gold. That means they actually care enough about your business to give you that feedback on how you can get better. The same goes for employee engagement surveys or just any time that you get a piece of constructive feedback when it comes to your business. Number 8, time management is essential. I believe you will make time for the things that are most important to you, but I also firmly stand by Randy Zuckerberg's Pick 3 rule. I explained it thoroughly in episode 5. You can go to secondfirst.com/5, and I'll also link it in the show notes. Number 9, sometimes recovery is more important than continuing to push. Things start to break down if you only advance without retreat. So in athletics, this is how injury happens. And in business, this is when you see high growth companies start to break down operationally. You have to make your processes scale along with the revenue. Some of the most successful and high growth clients that we work with at Second First will purposefully alternate years. So one year they'll really push growth. So they'll add a lot of revenue. And then the following year will be a stabilizing year where they won't push revenue, but they'll make sure that they clean up all their operations to really set the stage for another successful push year. And number 10, there is no finish line. There's always something to improve upon, ways to be better, and lessons to learn. To catch show notes and find links for anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondfirst.com/7. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone when you have the right-hand roadmap.